Let's flip it around a little bit and talk about your HLH situation that we reference a tiny bit, but I don't want to try to pronounce it because I'll just butcher it like I did last night, but can you tell us what it is and just give us a little synopsis of what happened?
100%. Hang on one second. There we go. So yeah, the full name that HLH stands for is hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis.
Yes.
And
Beautiful.
I've practiced. So it's a rare disease. It was described to me as autoimmune or as an autoimmune condition by my medical team in the hospital. It's not a true autoimmune condition. It's technically a hyperinflammatory syndrome, but it presents, autoimmune-ish in some capacities. So I'll come back to this in a minute. But for me, January of 2023, we came back from visiting my parents for New Year's Day. Next day, I started to feel a little sick. Didn't think too much of it because, it was cold and flu season. And my daughters and wife started to get sick too. A week later, they were better and I was getting worse. So went to my GP. We thought it was a sinus infection because there were sinus symptoms as well as fever and chills. Got some meds. They weren't doing anything. Things got worse. I had insomnia, which I'd never had before. My lymph nodes were swelling to the point where in my head or my neck and shoulders, it felt like running my fingers over a little mini mountain range. And went to a smaller hospital nearby. They diagnosed me as having mononucleosis, which was strange because I'd never had mono, nor had my wife, but apparently I had it. And then 3 or 4 days later, my wife looks at me and she's like, "You're yellow," as in my skin was jaundicing, and we knew that something bad was going on. So went to a larger hospital a little further away, and within 6 days of being admitted, which I was immediately because my heart was racing, blood pressure was spiked, and damn near passed out in the ER. Within 6 days after that, I was on life support in the ICU, on dialysis, on a ventilator, had so many IVs and blood draws going on every couple of hours at this point. And after image and test after test, we finally landed on HLH as the diagnosis. So HLH has two main categories. There's primary, which has a genetic component, taking one step back. What HLH is when the body's immune system, particularly, lymphocytes and another one of the cells is escaping me at this point in time. But the immune system is attacking the body's healthy cells, especially red blood cells, which leads then to organ failure. And it is quite a deadly disease. In the primary version, which again is genetic, that usually shows up in infants and children. And you have to have a bone marrow transplant to have a chance at curing it, along with the other things in treatment that are involving chemo and corticosteroids and other things. I didn't have that version. Mine was not genetic. Mine was secondary, which can be caused by either an infection, which was the case for me, the Epstein-Barr virus, which is the virus that causes mononucleosis, led to the HLH for me. So caused by either an infection, a cancer, or a different autoimmune condition. Treatment is following a similar path: chemo, corticosteroids, monoclonal antibodies, plus whatever other treatments are needed to treat the complications, and there were many. But yeah, this landed me on life support for 5 weeks. We ran through all the treatment options, and I was still getting worse. We had the last one administered. I continued to get worse to the point where there were conversations being had between my parents, my wife, and my medical team, preparing them for me dying that week. And there was a lot of prayer. There's a faith aspect to this. But after that last treatment, I made a recovery that I wasn't supposed to make, to the point where it earned me the nickname Miracle Man from some of the staff members that worked with me in the ICU. So yeah, I'm skipping over a bunch, but it was after those 5 weeks in the hospital, it was another 2.5 months, so 3.5 months total in the hospital, of recovery and convalescence and learning how to speak, breathe, walk, swallow by myself again. When I say square one, I mean it. And that's where we started. And obviously, the fact that we're having this conversation means that by God's grace, I was able to get back home, continue to rehab. And this was a long journey with lots of ups and downs along the way. But we're here. I am free and clear of HLH, not free and clear of challenges, both fallout from that and then some other ongoing things. But yeah, it's been quite the harrowing journey, which, tying it all back together, strength training literally saved my life through this, because since I couldn't eat on life support, I had an NG tube to administer medications and some nutrition, but I was so sick that they couldn't give me much nutrition because I just wouldn't handle it, couldn't process it. So I went in weighing about 193 pounds, and when I woke up in the ICU, I weighed about 150. And the 40-pound difference was the muscle that I built over the years of being in the gym for training for football, and then aesthetics, and then bodybuilding, and then powerlifting. And doctors told me unless I had that on my frame, like, we wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have had it. It would have had to come from somewhere else.
Exactly, and there just wouldn't have been enough fuel, stores ready to kind of be drawn on.
Yep, that's I. I don't know when I first followed you, but I'm friends with Wyatt, and then that's how I found John, and then you, and it was before that happened though. So it's been, or no, I might have found you right when you started recovery, to be honest. But yeah, it's been pretty incredible to watch, and I know even beyond the having muscle mass and that saving you, like some people mentally would never recover. And the fact that you're back to powerlifting and now setting, post-hospital PRs and all-time PRs again, I don't like to use the word inspirational because most people that are inspirational don't like that, but it really is. Like, helps give perspective, especially when, I tore an adductor, which pales in comparison. And for me, a lot of people don't like that, but for me, that helps. When I can see, someone else got through that, okay, I can handle this.
I appreciate that, man. And that's honestly a key motivation for me sharing all of this, where all of this happened. So now I have this journey that I'm still on, that is still really unfolding in a lot of ways, and much of which that has happened. My hope in sharing it is so that it can be an example of what's possible, for one. That it can be inspirational, motivational, and I've heard that from a lot of people, and I'm grateful for it. My mindset here is I do try to be humble, and the best description of humility that I've come across is saying things as they are. So I do believe there's power and there's use in sharing the highs and the lows, and the mundane that has been in massive supply for me.
Yeah.
And just always hearing from anybody else that it's having some sort of positive impact, I'm grateful for. So thank you for saying that.
Yes, sir. I think a lot of people can take a lot away from it, right? I mean, same way I can. It's just tough sometimes to think, you don't want to shrink your own problems. It's relative. But
Absolutely.
at the same time, I'm more of an absolute problem guy. So when I see someone that can't walk and they're still in their powerlifting, or the guys that lose their leg in the middle of their life and they're still going to the gym, I'm just like, okay, my shit's not that big of a deal.
It helps, man. It absolutely it has a role. An example of that for me still is Nick Lavery, who's, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a Green Beret, excuse me, and he was while on active duty, I believe in Iraq, he was wounded pretty grievously. He lost his leg, whether it was lost in the attack or amputated after, I can't quite remember. Excuse me. But massive wounds, lost the leg, told he would never return to active duty. his response, and he could tell the story way better, but effectively boiled down to him saying, "All right, bet." And he's an active duty. I believe he's still currently active duty, but he certainly returned as a Green Beret. And yeah, he, along with many others, for me, still, they help to put things in perspective. And I think that perspective is important,
Yeah.
regardless of, what the issue is.
Yeah, we have a guy from Alabama. Same deal. I think he was in Iraq. It was Iraq or Afghanistan. He lost his arm and a leg. His name's Noah Galloway, but he's since then. I think he was on Dancing with the Stars, in fact. But
Amazing.
since then, he's kind of his life is better than ever. You know, he's turned it around. So same deal. It's pretty interesting to see, and I've seen him a few times just out and about, just because he's from Birmingham and it's not that big of a city. So
That's
it's
awesome.
pretty cool to see. I am familiar with who you're talking about. I just didn't know him by name. Like I've seen
Totally.
that story.